Welcome everybody to Checked In Podcast. Got Michael, Zach, and P Funktastic here. That's with a Q. We're gonna start this episode. We're gonna start this episode off with a little video from Pat, and jump right back in.
It's funny. All of our problems come from this idea that we're separate from each other, and that's why the law of one, in my opinion. It's not really my opinion, but that's the answer to everything. And it's like so simple. We're all one. So there's no problem. If you know that we're all one, and we know that, there's no time but now, there can be no conflict because there's nothing to conflict with. You can't conflict with itself. It's like there's no you're better than me because there's no you and me. It's we, it's us, it's one thing. It's not like, oh, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. It's like, no, I'm doing this, you're doing that, and it's fine. There's no separation. If there's no separation, there can be no conflict. It's funny.
All right, so that kind of goes into what we were talking about last episode, about how we're all not separate beings, but actually all a bunch of basically spirits, where our souls kind of working in unison. We left off last episode talking about how the book that Pat happens to have on hand talks about how a hypnotherapist was hypnotizing people and trying to have them recollect back prior to birth. And a lot of them were able to do that, talking about how when they died in their previous life, they had an out-of-body experience. When they had the out-of-body experience, they were able to roam the earth. They were able to attend their own funeral. They were able to stay for as long as they wanted to, as a soul, as a spirit, and then go up with the rest of the souls, and how your life on earth is planned. You decide what it is you want to do, where you want to be, and then you live that life, whether it's on Earth or possibly another planet, another galaxy, whatever it is. And how basically, we are not us, for a lack of better terms. I'm not Michael, you're not Pat, you're not Zach. We're just souls that take this body.
It's like a video game, basically. It's like you're the guy, you're really the guy playing the game. It's like The Sims,
it's like Grand Theft Auto.
Basically. Yeah.
Sims,
it's like, all right, I'm gonna be this person. I'm gonna be Zach. I'm gonna be this tall. I'm gonna have these parents, and I'm gonna set myself up to have this certain life. And then you go in, and then you forget that you set it up. And then this whole spiritual awakening is kind of remembering, like, oh shit, I set this whole thing up. But it's like, but then you do have free will, so it's like you have to then live it out. You can totally butcher it if you want. But like, yeah, it's like totally like that video game thought process that has been really helpful sometimes for me, because it's like, that's really what it is. It's like we're not our bodies or our minds. Yeah, so you can do whatever the fuck you want, basically.
Exactly. That mentality. When I've had that mentality a few times, and I have that mentality in a sense. That's what made me make the move that I made across the country. Just having that video game mentality where it's like, I'm the main character in my video game. I'm in control of what I want to do, and trying to make other people happy is not part of that. Like, you're supposed to make you happy and live your life, and knowing that you doing what's best for you is actually what's best for you is a tough pill to swallow. Like, me moving down here, I was like, damn, I don't have like my friends, my family, nothing. But at the end of the day, it's like, but this is something that I wanted to do, and it makes me happy. So
that's it. Yeah.
That thought right there is like, it's almost freeing thinking of it as a video game. Like, if you play a video game, you don't want your video game character to go work a 9 to 5. You're not going to play Sims if your video game character is just working a retail job 9 to 5 every day, going home, watching TV, and that's it. Like, you want your character to do shit. And like, people live their lives in such a silly way where it's like, oh, no, I want to just like fit in. And it's like, no, you don't.
You're hiding at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Pat, have you felt like, because I guess you're a little bit deeper in this than both of us, have you felt like you've been able to understand like where like what you chose before you entered this matrix, quote unquote, or like
Not well, kind of, but not fully. No, I'm still trying
yeah,
to figure that out. Honestly, I've been like, when I had this like awakening or whatever, and I experienced like what they talk about with the near death experience people, where it's like the oneness and the love, and you realize that love is the language of the universe, and that's really everything is love, and everything bad that happens is really just a way to teach you something. And there's really no problems don't exist. It's just the way you approach things. The negative has to happen for us to grow. If we just lived in this perfect world where everything was perfect, we would just do nothing. We just sit here and be like, this is fucking great. We have
yeah,
to have conflict to learn and grow. So like my mindset completely changed, and
mhm,
I've been trying to kind of figure out what brings me the most joy, because that's the
yeah,
secret. Like if you want to figure out what you're supposed to do, follow your joy, and that's what it is. So for me, a
yeah.
little
That
bit has
reminds
been.
me.
You go ahead.
Oh my bad. I was gonna say that reminds me of kind of the whole theme of the movie that we talked about, movie Soul, in the
Yeah.
last episode. And that's pretty much what it was. Like the one guy who was a musician and he found out that, music, teaching music made him feel really great. And like there was an aura around him when they seen him on the other
Mm-hmm.
side that, and there's another guy that while he's flipping a sign outside of like some
Yeah.
company, his aura was going crazy and he entered like his like I guess hallucination or whatever it was. But basically, like it was just a common theme throughout the movie. Like everybody that was doing things that they love. Like I think there was one person even playing video games, and like he entered his like zone or whatever they call it
Mm-hmm.
in the movie. So I mean, I don't know. It kind of reminds me of like I'm a Christian, obviously. So like it reminds me of like the whole message is kind of like, you know, basically like just trust God or like trust that you're good and that God has always got you. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like don't basically it says in the Bible a bunch of times, like don't ever fear, what you're walking into because God is there, he's with you. He loves you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it constantly preaches God is love and like everything you're supposed to do is you're supposed to do with love is what the Bible literally says
Yeah.
a bunch of times.
The only way to
So I
get.
mean it
Oh, go
kind
ahead.
of no, I'm saying it just kind of reminds me of that, and I think that's pretty cool because it's like, you know, you're not supposed to walk in like fear. You're not supposed to walk with doubt
Mm-hmm.
or hatred or like whatever. You're just supposed to do what you can. If you see somebody struggling, help them. If you
Mm-hmm.
can even just chime in, give somebody some quick, advice. I mean, not everybody's receptive to those things, but it's just like, you're just supposed to do your diligence here and find out what you love, do what you love, and don't, obviously if you're doing things out of love or in love, you're thinking in love, moving in love, you're not gonna do like evil, crazy, or wicked things. You know what I
Right.
mean? You're not gonna do horrible things. You're not gonna be, a horrible person or develop, wicked habits. You're gonna develop great habits. Good. Your endorphins in your mind is gonna be exploding every time you do something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You hear people saying like, well, if I could just do whatever I want, then why wouldn't I just go and kill a bunch of people? It's like, well, you wouldn't want that. Nobody wants to
Yeah.
do that shit. That's
Yeah.
just not how it works. Like your joy, it's always, at the end of the day, your true something that's really joyful always ends up being something that ends up something where you can spread it out to other people. And for me at least, so maybe I found out that I just want to help people, and I want to spread love to people, and I want to teach. Like I used to work with kids when I was younger, and like I would do something like that because like a lot of the problems in society now is parenting is fucked, because like society is horrible, right? But like
Hmm.
parents could be the ones to step in and fix that and say, all right, listen, don't watch the TV, trust yourself, trust in God, whatever you want to believe in, trust in love. But they're not doing that because they're brainwashed. So it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Most parents are like want you to be very focused on the more systematic things, and I don't think there's anything wrong with structure or preparation or going by a schedule. I think that actually can help anybody as far as being organized because you can't walk through life just ad libbing and like winging everything.
Yeah.
But I feel like, that's what's really pressed upon. I mean, you could probably, but I mean, how
No,
far would you
you
get if
get
you're
more done with a plan for sure. For
yeah,
sure.
for sure. And that's another thing in the Bible it says is to have a plan. It says write it on a tablet or whatever, but I mean, we don't have tablets anymore. We have like notebooks.
iPads,
We have like
basically the same
screensavers, iPads. Yeah,
shit.
yeah. Phones, right? All our smartphones look just like a tablet. They're all like rectangular. You can write on them. Some of them are like have the Apple Pencil or the Samsung, the Note. You can write, whatever. You can write on a sticky note. There's a bunch of people I know. They just they put affirmations on their mirror and they're like, hey, I'm gonna wake up and
Yeah,
accomplish this
I got a
today.
bunch. I got mine over. You can't really see it, but
Yeah, I see it on the
I got
cabinet.
a
Yeah,
bunch over
but
there.
it's just
Yeah.
like yeah, once you set your day to, once you set your day to your mindset, and then you're like, if I have a certain goal I want to accomplish or a task I want to do, and I'm constantly looking at it, like some people I know are very motivated, like athletes, right? So they just have a picture of like Odell Beckham Jr. on their, on their wallpaper on their phone, and they're really into football, they're really into, basketball or whatever. They have like Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or LeBron or whatever on their, just a really great player, really great person and what they want to be accomplished as their background. Because it just constantly reminds them of that motivation or to just stay in that mode. Like no matter what happens today, I'm gonna go to the football field. I'm gonna train. Well, no matter what happens today, I'm gonna go to, even if it's just going to work, being the best employee at your job because you just simply love what you do at work. Whatever it is, I think it's always good to remind yourself, boom, this is what I'm doing today. This is what I want to accomplish. This is what I need. And then also with that being in the back of your head, you now have a plan set up. You're obviously have a plan, or you're constantly thinking about how you're going to plan or change your plan a little bit or alter it to give you your end result at the end of the day. And if you didn't accomplish it that day, you have the next day to go, and continue to try and accomplish that goal. So I think that's pretty dope that there's a lot of similarities between different, I guess, belief systems or different beliefs, but it's kind of like almost all the same target is like, what we've been saying, just like talk your way into what you want to do, do everything out of, with a good intention of love or like pass love on to people. And it doesn't mean you gotta like, kiss somebody every time you walk past.
Right.
I mean, but like, obviously just have that good intention to put everything towards what you want to do. I mean,
And
obviously,
it doesn't mean being a pushover either and letting people
yeah,
abuse
no,
you.
yeah,
No,
I think it's just, yeah.
I want to bring it back though.
Mhm.
Pat, obviously I've known you for a little while. Even back before you were, like before you were spiritual, before all of this, I remember sitting at a table with you outside drinking and smoking. And you were even at that time preaching how money isn't everything, status isn't everything. Even then,
I've always known that shit.
so, I mean, what about you? Like, what do you think it is that makes you? I mean, even back then, before you knew all of the stuff you know now, like, what do you think it is that inside of you that made you realize, like, no, this isn't it? Even before you knew this wasn't it, you knew this wasn't it.
I think I set my talking about before, where we kind of pre-plan our lives and then we live them out. I set myself up to be like that. Like I'm an only child. I was raised by a single mother. I don't know my father. I spent a ton of time alone by myself observing. I was always, imagine like it's bring your dad to school day. My dad's not there. Like I was a lot of things where I was kind of the outcast in different ways.
Right.
And like by being that though, it gave me the opportunity to, instead of being as involved in life, I was kind of sitting back and observing more. And the more you just observe, the more you start to see how shit works. People get so involved, and of course you've got to be involved. I mean, you have to live your life,
Right.
but like there's a lot that you can get from just taking a step back and just observing, as opposed to like you hear about someone said something to me where she was like, I think the quiet people end up being more spiritual than the loud people. And I was like, that might be true, kind of, because like the quiet people are just chilling, just like watching everything, figuring everything out. And the loud people are being loud and just doing it. They're,
Right.
So
They're more
I think,
impulsive, yeah.
yeah. So it's like, for me, it was just like I observed things, and I've been good at recognizing patterns and seeing how things are. And I don't know, you just, the more you watch things, the more you figure shit out. And that's really all it is.
Right. No, absolutely. I mean, even back then when you were saying that, I mean, that was a hard pill to swallow for me. I mean, only recently have I realized like money doesn't create I mean, money, I guess, can like supplement happiness in a sense that like you can afford to do things.
It'll give you pleasure, but it won't give you joy.
Right. Exactly. Now, what's the difference between pleasure and joy for you?
So, because pain and pleasure are like this dichotomy. With pleasure comes pain. This is like a Buddhist type idea,
Yeah.
where like the whole idea behind Buddhism is like life is suffering, life is pain, and it's all because of your attachments to things. And if you're attached to something that gives you pleasure, it's always going to end up giving you pain because there's going to be the pain of not having it.
Right.
So to have pleasure, you have to have pain. It's a dichotomy, they go together. Where joy is just that everything's love thing, and there's no opposite. Like fear would be the opposite of that, but you can just ignore it basically. Fear is bullshit.
Right.
But like, so yeah, pain and pleasure, I don't know, does that make sense? I don't know if,
I
Yeah,
mean,
that makes a ton of
it
sense.
does.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're saying basically that pleasure and joy are different because pleasure comes from material things,
yeah,
where you can essentially lose said material thing, whereas
right,
joy comes from within. It doesn't depend on anything
yeah,
else. So I mean, going back to the homeless thing, do you think that you'd have joy being homeless?
I just think it'd be, I mean, yeah, of course, I'll have joy with whatever I do, period. Like I have joy now. It's like in me. So like I'm always gonna have it now. Like that was one thing that happened when I had this awakening. Like I realized that my big thing was, so like I just realized that I was like, wow, okay, everything's connected, everything's love. Wow. So that's true. So I lost my fear of death is what really set it off. So because I realized, oh, this has always been here the whole time. Because it wasn't like I was learning something for the first time. It was this familiar feeling where it was like, oh my God, how could I have forgotten this? This has been here the whole time. This love web that we're surrounded with that you can't see, that you forget about. That you hear about like the veil dropping. So like the veil
Yeah.
dropped, and like I saw what was really there for like a minute or two, and I was just like, oh, so when I die, I'm just gonna, all this is still gonna be here. I'm still gonna be here. Just Pat won't be here. So who cares? And then I realized like, oh, so if I don't have to fear death, I don't have to fear anything, and I can just do like what you were saying. I can just do whatever I want now. I'm free to do whatever. So if I wanted to be homeless, I could just be homeless. And I don't really necessarily want to do that. I just think
Yeah.
it might be kind of an interesting thing just to say like because I've been kind of debating like, do I want to like just become like a monk and just like say fuck everything and just like give away all my money and go like the Jesus route and just fucking walk the streets and have nothing and just give everything away? Like I've thought about
Yeah. I
that.
mean, then you'd really be like Siddhartha. Like he'd really just be like,
Yeah.
I don't need anything. Like I think it was a whole like eating 1 grain of rice per day or something like that because he didn't want an attachment to food because food gives you pleasure or something like
Hmm.
that, like one of his lessons or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty funny. Like he he literally gave everything up and was just like out in the wilderness, just like, still was, I guess his whole thing was he still was happy. He still was, he still could do everything he needed or wanted to do. And he just kind of chose to be very simplistic and like really only focus on his ideology.
Yeah, I heard the story about that too. Like it was like 4 years or something he did that. And he was just basically eating nothing, and he became skin and bones, and he had like a few followers, like 4 or 5 guys who were like following him and stuff. And then I don't know if this is true, this is just what I've heard, but like so then like one day he's like crossing a river, and then he's like so weak because he's hasn't been eating that he couldn't, like he got stuck basically. He's like holding onto a branch, and he just like couldn't get over the to the other side of the river, and he just started thinking like, why am I doing this? Like what am I looking for? Like am I overdoing this kind of thing? And then so then when he finally got to the other side, he realized like all right, I tried that, but like maybe I'm missing the point because now I'm holding on to this idea of letting go of everything. That's another thing I'm holding on to in a way.
Yeah.
So then he sat down and he told his people, he's like, all right, let's eat. And then he sat
Yeah.
down and he got fat. And that's why you see Fat Buddha as all the sketches. Of that. And it's funny because then I guess his followers were just like, oh, like we thought you were legit. And then once you started eating, they all abandoned him because they're like, oh, you're not real. Like, so that's why I was thinking about that type of idea. But it's like, if I go that route, now I'm just attaching to this idea of being unattached, which is in itself an attachment.
Right,
So
exactly.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I mean, more people. I think honestly, more people should be in that mindset. Do you think like the government's kind of trying to sway people away from it?
Yes, of course, 100%.
How
Maybe not
so?
just the government, but the whole system. Everything is
Yeah.
set up. The whole materialism. And I mean, it's inherent. Everything advertised is emotional. It's like if you drink Coke, you're going to be happy. Look how happy those people are. Or
Right.
like you drink beer, you're having a party. Every advertisement is about drinking beer or eating dirty ass food. Or like think about celebrities. They're literally we idolize these people and they tell us, all right, yo, you gotta wear Gucci, you gotta wear Prada, you gotta have Yeezys, this and that. And it's like, well, I need to be like them. So I have to get my happiness out there. Nobody's preaching that it's within. I
Right.
mean,
Exactly.
Jesus did, and
Yeah.
Siddhartha did, and Muhammad did, and like all the greats did. But when you're talking about society and big pharma, the pills that they got us on and everything, like,
Yeah.
dude, it's
Oh yeah.
all meant. This whole thing, this whole matrix is meant to keep us from figuring out that we don't need any of that shit. Basically,
Yeah.
I think.
For
Why
sure.
do you think? Why do you think the? So I don't understand though. So everyone is on the same journey, right? Everyone. I mean, not the same journey, but everyone's doing the same thing. Where it's you have your own individual journey.
Yeah, the same thing in different ways,
Yeah.
basically.
So the only thing, the part that I can't quite grasp is if that's the case, which I believe it is. Why are the people in power not? Are they doing the same thing on their own, but with a dash of like bad, or like how is that? How does that play out on their end?
The way I see it is, I assume that they're just thinking like, all right, well, if nothing matters, if this life doesn't matter that much, if I'm gonna die and I can restart anyway and just reincarnate and maybe I'll have to suffer some more and I can dig out of it later. It's like, well, why don't I just go bad and just see how it is? Like, why don't I just take in everything and take and do, because like I said, there's two ways to do it. There's service to others or there's service to self. So why not just go full on service to self, power over others, because that's really what it is, power over others. There's a high you get from manipulating people. Like even that's part of the reason I stopped doing sales, because like I realized that in a way I was manipulating these people. I was getting in the way of their free will in some way. And maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but that's basically what they're doing. They're manipulating people and they get something out of it. They get a pleasure out of that. And they're saying, I'll deal with the pain later. Fuck it, basically. And I think they don't care. They realize, it's fine. I'll deal with the bullshit later, basically.
So do you think it's like your scenario where you came to the realization, but you went one route and they just went the other route?
Some probably. I mean, some of these spiritual people who charge all sorts of money, like, because there's like Eckhart Tolle, that guy. Have you heard of him? The Power
Yeah.
of Now.
Mhm.
He has his audiobook free on YouTube and shit. And like you can still buy his book, and he
Right.
does things for money, but like he'll give you all of his teachings for free.
Right.
And if you want to buy it, you can buy it. But there's other spiritual people who they'll sell. They won't give it away for free. And if they're not willing to give it away for free, then they're missing the point, obviously, because
Right.
then there's some selfishness there. And when you wake up and you have this moment of realization, it's easy to fall back into your old way of thinking. It doesn't just stay like I don't feel the oneness all the time. You know what I mean? It's like
Right,
the
right,
ego and everything that's built up from your childhood is still there that you have to kind of fight past and get rid of it and reprogram yourself.
right.
So it's like it's easy if you're not going to do the work to just fall right back into your old ways. And I know there's some quote where it's like, I'll probably fuck this up, but it's like a man has two lives and the second one begins when he realizes that he only has one.
Oh yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I've heard that before.
That's deep.
So it's like,
Yeah.
and you can forget though. You can forget and you can fall right. Like the movie, have you seen the movie The Matrix?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know the bad guy kind of looked like me with the little beard, the one who turned on them.
Yeah.
He's kind of an example of the bad guys. He figured it out. He woke up, and then he's just like, it's too hard. He's like, I know I'm eating this steak. I know this steak is fake. I know this isn't real, but I still like the taste of steak. So fuck it, give me the steak. And that's why he went back into the Matrix. So that does happen for sure with people because it's harder to stay out than to go back in. The whole system is designed for you to stay in. So for
So
sure.
have you ever thought, I mean, has it ever crossed your mind that like, because you having this mentality is not normal by any means. Like
It's the future though. I'll tell you that.
100%.
In the future, everyone is going to think like this. Now, I don't know when, but anyway.
So has it ever crossed your mind that because this mentality that you have, I mean, you know what you're talking about. You've read the books. You've lived the life. Like, have you ever thought to monetize off what you preach, essentially?
Well, I've been trying to figure out how to do that basically because I don't want to become this spiritual money grubbing type person because there's so many of these people. And it's like, or Joel Osteen, the preacher dude.
Yeah.
There's a ton of them.
Yeah.
There's a ton of them. But
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I think I came to find out that I'm gonna start a blog basically, because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have all my tips and shit for myself, like things to do, this and that, and I can just put them on a blog, and then get ad revenue for people looking at the page. But I'm still giving away free information because people can just go to the website and see, 10 things to do to have better meditations or something like that.
Right.
So that's what I'm going to be doing. I really literally just decided this like a week ago or something. So but that's going to take like at least a year to become actually something where I can like do. But if you do the blog shit long enough, like by the time you get to like the first year, you can just quit your job and that can be your job, So that's what I'm going to end up doing.
Well, that's pretty dope. So I mean, let's dive in because I just did this, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to show you guys NASA. So NASA actually means in Hebrew it means to deceive, right? So I want to dig into really how we're getting that deception that we were just chiming in on a little bit ago. But basically, I think it's funny because like we talk about like the sales industry or marketing or like trying to push ideas into the masses, right? So they definitely, I mean, we've covered this before, me and Mike, in one of our other episodes, but we kind of touched on it. We're touching on a lot of things in that episode. But I guess it's now the time to kind of dive in a little bit more, sink our teeth in. So, basically, if you look at like the way they color code things, right? Like every color has like a defined meaning or emotion behind it. And that has been used in pretty much every advertisement, everything you see on TV or online or even on a billboard, every form in a magazine, right? Every form of advertisement. There's these color codings, color coordinations, and the fashion industry is like perfect at it, right? They're always, people buy little accessories, little clothes, or they crave it or they want it and they desire that next new jacket or shoes or whatever that comes out. And it's like when they push these kind of things, there's I mean it even goes down to like furniture, like anything, food, like whatever looks doing, good. Sure. Yeah. That's why there's like all these messed up ingredients in our food. Is just to make it look so good to us and like to kind of play with our mind and it's kind of bad with food that they do that even more. Like even in your grocery, like you go to buy a pack of meat or even some
Yeah.
salmon. Salmon doesn't look that orange. Meat isn't that blood red, right?
Yeah.
It's not that color, but because that color can, drive some sort of impulse out of your mind to get you to think that you're going to get that certain reaction that you're seeing in those colors, that your mind is going to have that enjoyment out of that product. Or even like certain things we see that aren't really like more repulsive colors, or the colors that kind of drive more negative negative ideas or negative emotions in your body. I mean, there's like a bunch of, things that, you can see that will do that, right? So like I think it's crazy because NASA is a whole word of deception. And like we were in a video we were talking about, we were like contemplating, or I shouldn't say contemplating, maybe we were like discussing, trying to see if the earth was flat or round, if, the outer space really looks like how it is, or if the properties of outer space even is what it is, you know what I mean? Down to, marketing with Best Buy, Walmart, McDonald's, like the big name brands, they all use certain colors. All of those ones actually have yellow. And yellow, I mean, yellow is my favorite color, but yellow is supposed to be, satisfaction, happiness, right? All this other
Right.
stuff. And so like that, I think it's pretty cool how, I mean, it's messed up, but I think it's pretty cool how they learned about, the mind that way. Well, CIA has a lot of stuff with that to do with that too, as far as like I think they actually banned flash marketing, where like I believe in movie theaters, drive-ins and stuff like that, they were able to like for like 2 split seconds every couple minutes and just say popcorn drink, and like
Yeah.
you wouldn't notice it, but your eyes would
Subliminal
still see it.
messaging. Yeah.
Yeah, subliminal. Yeah, so they're using like colors and audio waves and all this stuff to kind of subliminally drive us to this norm that they're trying to create for us in the systematic way of thinking and eating and drinking and
I mean, it's smart. I
impulsiveness.
wouldn't
And
say it's cool, but it's smart as
well, I
fuck.
think it's cool. I think it's cool the way that they can use it. I don't think it's the bad. Like I said, I think it's very
They're
cool how smart
misusing
it is.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah. Yeah.
misusing it. Yeah. So like, I mean, if you really think about the science behind it, that's the cool part, because it's just
Right.
like, wow, you can kind of alter somebody's decisions, impulsiveness and emotions even to do it. But I don't think they're doing it the right way at all. But what have you noticed, Pat? Like with that, what have you noticed the changes in which you're, kind of accepting or declining, and maybe your diet, maybe the things you're investing in or your purchases, and how you see things, and like what are some interactions that you get into with people that, like, where you're kind of like maybe warning them or like telling them about those things.
I mean, the way I tell people now is like, if there's an advertisement for it, you probably shouldn't buy it at all.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
Like
you
the
should buy
shit,
a Ferrari then, right? No.
like, well, yeah, no, but like the shit that's the shit that you really need, you don't need someone to tell you you need it. Like you'll know it. My advice is just to use your discernment on an individual basis and just think about why you're doing the thing, what you're trying to get out of it. Like, am I doing this out of fear or am I doing this out of love? It still comes back to that dichotomy. It's like, because a lot of this stuff is fear of because people don't have self-love. That's the big problem with everybody, and they use
Mhm.
that against us. So it's like people don't love themselves enough, so let's take their inadequacies and fill the void with bullshit, basically. So like, I just try to think about it like, well, what are they trying to do too? Because I mean, I've been in sales, obviously, and it's like,
Mhm.
what are they trying to get out of this? Like, are these people actually trying to help me for real, or are they just trying to get some money out of me? And 99% of the time, it's just to get money out of me. And the stuff that's advertised on TV, you talk about food and stuff. I mean, there's not a lot of advertisements for apples on TV or bananas
Yeah.
or kale. It's McDonald's. It's wings and shit, and like
And milk
unhealthy
and
things. Yeah, dairy.
yeah.
Like I've gone to I'm not full vegan, but like I mostly have like a vegan diet. I don't eat don't drink milk anymore.
Yeah.
I try to keep cheese down. Cheese is the hardest thing to drop for me. It's
Yeah,
so
and
fucking
it's
good.
also yellow.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and I mean, I'm the same way. I'm pescatarian, so like I eat
yeah,
a very select certain, type of fish, but I mostly incorporate a lot of vegetables, a lot of different fruits, vegetables, herbs, grains. I don't really eat too many grains. But it's just like, the whole thing that they forced the food pyramid on us the same in the
yeah.
same era they were forcing the 9 to 5, the school, even prison had works on the same schedule as nine to
Yeah, and the
five. There's
bottom
a
of the
lot
food
of
period is just a big ass piece of bread, which is like one of the most
yeah,
unhealthy things you can have.
Yeah.
yeah,
No, yeah. I mean, the food pyramids, I mean, a prime example of the government pushing, I mean, like the Got Milk campaign, right?
Yeah,
The Got Milk campaign, I don't know if you guys looked into this. The Got Milk campaign was actually established and put out like commercially as a way for people to consume more dairy because there was so much extra dairy. Like they
yeah.
were, I forgot what it was exactly. They were making an insane amount of cheese and milk and all of that. So they were pushing like, you need to drink milk, you need to eat cheese. And they had like the milkman delivering milk to people's houses
Yeah.
yeah,
over the top. And it's just because
The
they had
yeah,
so much, they had to either sell it or throw it out. And they were like, well, between the two, we're gonna sell it. So they had the whole Got Milk campaign. But recently, I can't tell you the last time I saw a Got Milk campaign.
yeah.
And if
Like,
you
I
look at
mean, you see it really with the 5210 maybe, or just the milk with the question mark. I mean, there's like billboards with that still, but I think they've generationally driven that into society, at least here in America. It's
Mhm.
kind of like a norm. I mean, I have a son, so like with the doctor, they're always questioning like our diet, but then when I tell them why we don't eat certain way, they're like, "Oh no, I fully understand that." And I'm just like, "So why are you trying to get my son and me and others to dive into this poorly proportionate, incredibly toxic diet?" Uh, and that I think that kind of stems back to Rockefellers. They had a huge hand in education, especially the college education in the medical field. They have their own agenda they were pushing because they were in the farm department, or I should say they were in the pharmaceutical. They were into the pharmaceutical industry, and they were probably still are probably the biggest pharma, families, I should say. But they were pushing it in there. So hey, if we get them to eat this way, they'll always get and eat our medicine. We'll
Mhm.
never our land that we have, our real estate that's producing some of these product or some of these ingredients for these products will never go. Our constant cycle of money will never stop flowing into our
Yep.
family. And I mean that's why I believe they say money is the root of all evil, because of the things that money provides for you, like power, like you said, pleasures, just certain those two, I mean, are probably the main things. um but
And
then
it's
there's
just the illusion
corruption,
of thinking that
lobbyists. Yeah,
you don't have the power yourself. You need the
right,
money to
exactly.
get
Yeah,
the love or the whatever.
yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah, for sure.
And the I mean, pharmaceuticals as a whole, I mean, we were using, I mean, Eastern medicine was a, a big way to alleviate pain, inflammation, sickness, all of that.
Still is.
Hmm.
Still is, right. And when I believe, what did you say it was, that Rockefeller or Rothschild?
Yeah, Rockefeller in America. Yep.
Rockefeller, the family actually incentivized colleges to teach Western medicine so that they can utilize their own, I believe it was oil, the oil, it was something to
Mm.
Yeah,
do with oil.
petroleum. Yeah, yep.
So they were incentivizing colleges to teach Western medicine as opposed to Eastern medicine. So students would come out of college knowing Western medicine and be pushing Western medicine. And you need, you need a pill to be happy. You're stressed out,
Hmm.
you take a pill. You can't
Yep.
focus, you take a pill. Eastern
Yeah,
medicine is like, no, you can consume this herb. You can drink this herb. You can smoke this herb.
You
And,
cannot
yeah,
eat for a few days and fast.
yeah, yeah,
and then
and it'll
you can
naturally
be, have
reset your
full
body.
clarity.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So it's
yeah,
like
and I think it's yeah. Go ahead. My bad.
the just the way that it was incentive, like back to money, like it was incentivized. You're going to teach this certain criteria. You're going to teach about this new way of medicine and helping people. And it's going to, in turn, put money in our pockets. And it's going to put money in your pockets because we're going to throw you a little something to push this agenda out on your students. And even now with doctors, I mean, there's incentives to push certain medication to patients. Whereas like, so a doctor, if they're getting paid an extra $20 a prescription or $100 a prescription to prescribe this one medication, what's stopping them from prescribing an Eastern medicine alternative?
They're not doctors at that point. They become salespeople.
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say that doctors are the best salesmen because, I mean, in the sales field, we all know you have to create a need for the product. Like anybody going in to buy a Ferrari, nobody needs a Ferrari, but you're going to make them feel like they need it. And, you know, odds are they're probably going to buy it if they can afford it. And I think it's pretty funny because like a lot of the colors that they use for certain things, like I know, so let's go with money, right? Money's green. That is, I'm looking at the chart right now. I had to pull it. But money is the color of green. Most of the dollar bills are green, right? And basically, the main thing is like safety for green, right? Obviously, life growth, you know, growth and you know, whatever, relaxation and safety are the main two things. So they're like, hey, you go do this, you know, you work hard, you know, whatever. You're gonna have safety and relaxation, but you're still gonna have to get back up and go work for like 90 years and work yourself to death, right? And then the blue $100 bill changed, right? It changed in America at least for the $100 bill. And the second one on the list is stability. The first one is peace. So if you have more $100 bills in your pocket, you're gonna feel more stable. You're gonna have more peace. You know what I mean? You're gonna have more confidence, right? So I think it's just pretty funny. Same thing. I mean, even with Walmart, right? Walmart, like yellow and blue, right? Peace, stability, confidence, calmness, right? You know, and then the yellow is just cheerfulness, right? Energy, warmth, you know, joy are those colors that in the marketing world that they use so much. So I just think that it's actually pretty funny, like how in depth they are with these colors and the color schemes and stuff like that. I mean, even like red or like the blue pill, right? The blue pill, we all know what the blue pill is. The blue pill is confidence, right? You're gonna feel more confident after.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know you meant it first. No, okay.
No, I'm not talking about like red pill versus blue pill, but
Yeah.
I'm talking about like the little blue pill. Yeah.
The real
So
one.
yeah, the real one. Yeah. And then you know, with romance, like the color is like of red. So like a lot of lingerie, you're only gonna really see them in red lingerie on commercials
And
or
it goes with
whatever.
like the chakras too, like the red chakra is the base chakra, which is the sexuality and everything.
Yeah, for sure. So I think it's pretty weird, a weird coincidence, right? that they're pushing those colors literally into your pockets, onto your body, you know, in your face. I mean, how hard is it? Like the golden arches aren't yellow, or they aren't red, right? They're like, you only see McDonald's with the yellow.
It's like the happiest
arches,
place
right?
on earth. Wasn't that
Yeah,
their phrase
yeah.
at one point or something? I don't know if that's right.
Yeah. And you know, that, and then you know, the play place that they used to always have. They were the only restaurant with the playground right inside.
The
So, I
Happy
mean, like,
Meal. It's called a Happy Meal.
yeah, it's called a Happy Meal, right? Exactly. And it even has a smile on it now. It doesn't even have the McDonald's M only on the top, but like it has a smile on it. So I mean, it's not really making your body happy. It's just making you happy because it tastes good. It does taste good. I mean, like the salt, the fat, you know, but it's also helping your doctors being able to push something. And a lot of these, especially for mental illness, a lot of these medicines like Ritalin, they're so mind altering and blocking, and like they block you from, and it calms you and makes you focus on one or two things. You know what I mean? It kind of like separates your mind from what your intentions are really supposed to be. And I think that's also crazy too, because like if you look at somebody that's taking Ritalin, you look at their brain, right? You look at their what is it, the thermal, you know, coloring of the brain. It matches a lot of negative regular people that, or regular people, regular minds that have those other mental errors, or not errors, I should say, or just mental illnesses. So like it changes the way your mind completely functions and everything like
Yeah, I
that.
got a
So,
story about that actually, because
mhm,
I after this awakening thing, I like fell in love with this girl I went to college with,
mhm,
and she ended up moving up here from Brooklyn and all this stuff, and
mm,
she's got a Vyvanse prescription, which is basically like Ritalin times 5 or something.
yeah,
And we were having issues because she's got issues with her exes and this and that, like PTSD and some trauma and this and that. But like we tried getting her off the pills for like a week, and when she got to like the fourth day, she's like, because she would get all these paranoid thoughts. Like she always thought I was lying to her about everything. She's like, I don't trust people. I think everyone's lying all the time. And I'm like, well, this is an issue. So it's in your head. So like you can fight it. But she wasn't able to do it when she was on the Vyvanse. But then when she got off it on day 5, she's like, the bad thoughts went away. Like I'm not getting the bad thoughts anymore. And I was like, really? And
yeah,
then and it was like perfect. It was like this dream relationship that where like the way when it started, and everything was so great. And then she went back to New York City, and she messaged me, and she's like, this is before she moved up. This is like when she had visited me at the beginning, and she's like, oh, I got my Vyvanse prescription again. And I'm just like, what? And she's like, but I didn't get it. I filled it, but I didn't pick it up. Aren't you proud of me? And I'm just like, oh no, like this just means you're gonna fucking get it
Yeah,
next week or
exactly.
something.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah,
sure enough, she did. And then like we even wrote down like a little note for her to remember, because she was like, it was like the best and worst times of my life being on Vyvanse, because you do get like a high off it. It's almost like being on
yeah.
cocaine or something. Like
Yeah,
it's an
a lot of those
amphetamine.
have a narcotic. Yeah, a lot of those have like narcotics in
And
them.
doctors are prescribing it. She's like, my doctor
Yeah,
prescribed this to me. I'm supposed to have it. I'm like, well, but yeah, it's like,
yeah,
that's part of the reason she can't get over all of her issues, because of this drug that she's given. She's told she's supposed to have it by her
yeah,
doctor. And then they're talking about trust the science, like going back to COVID. And it's like, you
yeah,
can't trust the science. You just can't. These
yeah,
people, you can't trust
Absolutely
them.
not. Because
yeah.
the
They have an intention for it. They have a motive to try and pass it. And I'm just gonna say this real quick, Mike. Um, I feel like if I wouldn't take narcotics by myself, why would I trust somebody to tell me to take narcotics, whether they have a degree or
Right.
not? You know what I mean? So go
yeah,
ahead, Mike.
I feel like the main reason why people are prescribed what they're prescribed. I mean, you could have like ADHD or you whatever. I feel like it creates a dependency. So like if you take this, it's only going to lead to you having to stack it or get more. Like it creates a dependency to it. Like I have a friend who used to be a heavy drug addict, and he used to mess around with everything, including heroin. And he was prescribed a over-the-counter heroin substitute. I forgot the name of it. And basically, it just transitioned his dependence from a street heroin to a pharmaceutical heroin. And I'm like, what's the point of taking this drug if it replicates how you feel when you're on heroin? And he's like,
Well, that's the war on drugs. Yeah.
yeah. And he goes,
The
well,
war on your drugs, take ours, not yours.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like just a basically a drug dealer in a lab coat. That's all it is. Like you're basically substituting out spending $10 to get a quick high to having your insurance cover your heroin addiction now. And it's like, that doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't solve the dependence. You're still dependent on this drug, whether it's pharmaceutical or not, to be happy. You can't just be
Yeah.
happy on your own. So you're not going to rehab to learn to be happy on your own. You're going to rehab to learn you're wrong for doing the street drug, and we're going to give you this pharmaceutical substitute of it so you can just be dependent on that to be happy.
Exactly.
Like,
And it's
it
oh, my
got
bad. Go ahead. Yeah.
It got to a point where he would actually, like, if we were ever hanging out, he had to leave to go take this drug at a certain time every time. So we couldn't hang out hang out from like 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. because at 8:30 he had to leave to go take this. And if he took it while he was out, he would it would incapacitate him. He'd be high. So he couldn't take it while he was out in public. He'd have to go home, take it, go to bed, and just basically be high in bed until he falls asleep. And I'm just like, that doesn't solve anything at all. It just basically
No,
your
not
doctor
at all.
said this is what you're going to do instead. It's going to be the same feeling and everything, but it's legal. Like how?
Yeah, and they're color coding pills too. I mean, a lot of the narcotic pills are white or bleached to white. And I'm looking at the color chart again that I'm keep referencing, and the color for white is hope, purity, and cleanliness. So like it's literally all like, it's like looking at things before you even make the decision. It's already like your mind's already getting a certain you know, a certain inclination about like, oh, maybe this might be, you know, something I should do, maybe this might be something I shouldn't do, you know what I mean? So I mean, and now a bunch of pills are just color coded for that reason. Like,
Yeah.
and I mean, it's crazy how far they can take it into, you know, giving you a horrible diet, you know, giving you a horrible drug to take, you know, making your body now then rely on a poor habit or a poor, you know, poor eating habit, or, you know, and then the eating habits go into, you know, your poor mental state. Your poor mental state goes into, you know, poor physical habits, or poor you know, habitual spending maybe, or poor, you know, looking for certain enjoyments or pleasures in certain things. And it's just like, if we take a step back, maybe recognize this color chart, right? But if you take a step back, look at everything for what it is, like you were saying, Pat, and just kind of observe your environment and see, you know, maybe recognize what, you know, what outside the norm is. You know what I mean? Maybe recognize what the norm is by looking at everybody like ants. You know what I mean?
You
Like,
got to see what people's intentions are, because people don't do
yeah,
things for no reason. There's always a reason that they're doing it. You got to figure out what the reason is to
yeah,
decide if you should listen to them or not, basically.
for
Are they
sure.
really looking for your best interest? And you're talking about food, like mental health. They say like 60 or 70% of the, I'm not going to remember what hormone it is, comes
Hmm.
from your gut, where like the happy hormone basically comes from what you eat.
Dopamine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's dopamine. But yeah. And another thing about the color thing. So white is hope. White is, you watch a movie, white is the good guy.
Hmm.
Black is the bad guy, right? Black is supposed to be
Yeah.
evil and shit. That's, you want to talk about racism? And systemic racism?
Yeah.
They're calling white people white and black people black, when I'm not white, you're not black. We're both
Yeah.
shades of brown.
Yeah.
Talking
Yeah.
about getting into people's heads and convincing them
Yeah.
that one group is better, that one's the good group, one's the bad group.
I
That is
always
like
say I
insane.
always say the tan versus the brown war.
Yeah. But the fact that
Literally, yeah.
whenever that, I don't know when that started, but like whenever they decided, all right, we're going to make it white versus black, you know, they were thinking about this color chart when they did
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And it's
And this
fucked
color chart
up.
is actually ancient. Like, this is ancient, like science. This is ancient, like you know, it goes back, even like I said, in the, like we keep referencing the Eastern culture. This has gone back thousands of years of to how people understand how these colors make people feel and understand life. You know what I mean? So like, I think that's another thing too that's like really hidden. I mean, unless you're going into that marketing field, right? It's really hidden from most people. Basically, how to manipulate the eyes, and the eyes go right to the brain. You know what I mean? Like, and then that also alters every decision you make. It alters every feeling you have, every, you know, thought or emotion that you can get driven just by looking at, you know, a color. I mean, look at cartoons. Cartoons make kids really happy, but a lot of the colors in cartoons are those happy colors. The first color you see or noticeable to the eye, I believe, is yellow, or like a light lime green type of yellow color, like that really bright color. And I think the next one down is like red. A really bright red is the next on the list on what you see. What you'd be able to notice first, right? So I think like with cartoons, like a lot of the things are like Superman, big flashy red cape, yellow S, or yellow and red S. You know what I mean? A blue, you know, that blue, you know, confidence and stability, and you know, integrity. You know, it's like you trust Superman, you trust Captain America. You know, you trust, you know, the red, white, and blue. A lot of the
Mm.
country's flags have some red, white, or blue in them, or even yellow. But it's just like those things our even down to our propaganda with our our nationalities. Um, it's all down to those color waves, those colors that we're seeing in our head, and we're like, oh wow. And then the propaganda behind it always kind of matches, right? It always kind of matches what those colors kind of signify, right? And like how our reaction is to those colors. You know what I mean? So then you break it down to how are they trying to deceive? How are they trying to how are they trying to deceive us? How are they trying to, veer us off our path, or maybe get us into another, realm of, you know, what we see as what we can identify life as, you know what I mean? And I don't know, I think that's a pretty rare um aspect on life, is how we look at things. But it's literally the first thing we have. You know, what I mean, the first thing we do is
Right.
open our eyes in the morning. First thing we do is, to look which way to turn when we're driving, or it's everywhere. First thing we turn on in the morning is probably a TV or a phone, right? You know what I mean? So it's like it's there. It's always at us, and it's a constant like attack
And that's where
on your brain.
your attention goes, wherever your eye goes, right?
For sure, for
And that
sure.
controls where your attention goes is where your energy goes. It's all,
Hmm.
that's
Now
why
I
they get
wanna
us
Yeah.
on these phones all the time.
I want to know something, Pat. Since you've changed your way of life, your I'm assuming your day to day is drastically changed. What does your typical day look like now that you're kind of woken up to the bullshit? Like, what does your routine daily look like?
I mean, I don't have necessarily a routine, but I I was waking up and going out and sun gazing in the morning every morning for a while,
I heard that's really
but
good.
it's awesome actually. It's a great meditation, and it's like it forces you to do it, because if you miss it, you miss it. Because like when the sun in that first half an hour or the first hour when the sun's going up, you can look at it without damaging your eyes,
Right.
and you can get energy from that. Or even if you don't believe that, you're at least just kind of forcing yourself to just meditate. And
Right.
then, but I don't always do that, because it's actually really hard to do that in the city. Like the sun moves, so like there's only a few months out of the year when it's like in the right spot so that I can do that. I was going to the building next door. There's a parking lot, a parking garage, and I
Yeah.
would go up and sit on there. And then one day the security guard came up there and he's like, "Yo, I got a call that some guy was up here looking at the sun." And I was like, "Well, you're probably gonna get more calls because I come up here every day." And I was like, "I live across the street. I have a parking pass. Like, I'm not doing anything weird. I'm literally just sitting here." And then these motherfuckers, the next day, there's a cop car sitting up there right where I sit, trying to like intimidate me away from going up there. So I
What?
fucking go and I sit right. I walk up right next to. I'm like, should I just? I'm like, no, I can't be intimidated by this guy. So I go up, I look at the guy, I kind of nod to him, I sit down, sit there for a half hour, get up and leave. Then the next day, the car is still there, although the guy wasn't there, and then he left. But anyway, so what I basically try to do is I try to not always do that, but wake up and do like some meditation, stretching, and that type of stuff. I always take a cold shower, which I highly 100% recommend to anybody, or at least finish your shower cold. There are insane benefits to that. I haven't gotten a zit in 2 years. I haven't gotten sick once in 2 years. I believe a lot of that has to do with the cold shower. Um,
Yeah, I mean, there's like a whole like, it's funny. There's a whole wives' tale about not showering before you, like right before you leave the house, because you're exposing like your skin, because your hot
yeah,
water opens up your skin pores. So if your skin pores are closed, you have a harder, or more, you know in a closed state, then you have a harder time. Things have a harder time of getting into your skin, or getting
mhm.
into your, and your skin is like your first line of defense. So like, yeah, I can understand. Yeah.
And when you get the cold, it kind of whatever fights stress in your body, whatever hormone that is, it kind of activates that. So it's building up tolerance against general stresses, physical and mental. So it
So
helps against depression and anxiety, as well as just physical pain. Like I remember once I started doing it, I think I was talking with you when we were at the fire, and I was like able to put my hand in the fire without getting hot, like without burning myself. And I was just like, Like the heat didn't affect me as much. Like stressors don't affect you as much. So that's a kind of a tangent, but
So
cold showers, yes.
the cold showers creates a cortisol spike,
I think that has something to do with it. Yes, yes, for sure. Cortisol is part of it. Yes.
and then so basically the cold shower, it almost it mimics a stressor and it makes you
Yeah.
get used to that.
Yes.
Huh?
So
Wow.
so then when other things stress you, and again, it has to do with mental too, because there's this guy Wim Hof, this is where I found out about this. This guy, he was like 16 or something, and he just had this impulse to jump in the freezing cold lake, and then he started like breathing real deep. So he kind of found breath work and cold therapy accidentally at the same time, and he just was
Huh.
doing it for a
Wow.
long time, and his anxiety and depression went away and all this stuff. And then years later, his wife killed herself, and that's when he was like, I need to tell people about this cold therapy stuff, because the depression and that kind of relate. Like she could have avoided this, whatever.
Wow.
but
So
yeah, it's like
you're taking a freezing cold shower, like knobs all the way.
I'll start, if it's cold, I'll start warm, and then but yes, I always go cold at the end, all the way cold.
How
Yeah.
did you
Wow.
how did you build? Because I've tried taking cold
You
showers.
just do it. You just do it.
So you're just in the cold water the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jesus, I know there's
I
benefits.
tell myself, I go,
Hard.
when it's cold and I go in there, I just say to myself, there's nothing to it but to do it. And then I get in. And it sucks. I'm not gonna lie. If you go in like straight cold at the beginning, like it doesn't feel good. Even now, it doesn't feel good. But
Right.
like after like 30 seconds, like you get used to it. Like you could actually, if you did like an ice bath, it's gonna suck. But like after a little bit, you do get used to it, and it's just like chill. Like
Yeah, that
athletes
makes
do that
that makes
all
a
the
lot of
time,
sense.
right?
Yeah.
After
I was just
games,
gonna say,
it's
yeah,
healing, and it gives you
athletes.
tons of energy too. Like so much energy. It's
Yeah.
the ultimate life hack. So that and breath work, I would say, are the easiest things you can do. And then I started doing intermittent fasting too, where I don't eat until like 12 or 2 every day, and try to eat within
Yeah.
like a 4 to 6 hour window generally, and stuff like that.
Yeah. That's another thing that they don't want us to do is to fast. They kind of want
Yeah.
us to eat fast food.
Of course.
You know what I mean? Like, cause fasting has a huge health benefit. I mean, there's
Oh,
like
yeah.
some spiritual things behind fasting as well. Um, but like fasting actually helps reset your body to kind of get rid of the damage that the food has done. I mean, even
Hmm.
if you're on a healthy diet, it's always great to fast. And intermittent fasting is probably the easiest way, where you're not
Yeah.
totally not eating. But yeah, a lot of people, a lot of athletes actually do, a lot of Olympians actually do it, is they'll intermittent fast, or they'll fast for like a couple of days of their training, and it just helps your body restore itself naturally, and actually properly assess itself. So when it does get the nutrients, it can actually push the nutrients towards the organs
Hmm.
that need it the most, as far as instead of just like kind of regularly distributing it out.
Yeah. And you got to think your
And
body. Sorry, go ahead.
oh my bad, I was just gonna say, and the last thing, it kind of reminds me of, like, why all the best football teams historically, right? Packers they're always in the cold. They have like 5 Super
Mm,
Bowls. Patriots have
yeah.
6 Super Bowls, right? Steelers have 5 Super Bowls. Like, they're always outside in the cold, and they always play their best games in the cold. Like,
If you've seen
everybody
Lord,
knows the best
go
Packer
ahead.
games always in the cold. They never play well in the warm weather. They've gone to Tampa Bay. They got whooped in
Yeah.
Tampa Bay last year. You know what I mean? Like, they just played the Jaguars, got whooped in the heat. But when you come and play in the cold in Green Bay, there's nobody else is gonna win.
Yeah. And like, do you ever watch Game of Thrones?
Kind of, yeah, yeah, yeah.
The main guys in that are the Starks, and they're from the north, and they're the hardest motherfuckers there are. And think about people in
Yeah,
Alaska. Like, you can't
yeah.
fuck with those people.
Oh,
You
yeah,
can't.
Vikings. The Vikings were
Yeah.
notorious.
Hmm.
so
What was I gonna say?
you do the intermittent fasting from so 2 to 4, 2 to 6. You
I'll
typically,
usually like 2 to 8 is what I'll do, but I try to stop by 6 if I can, usually.
okay. And then how do you like cap off your night, I guess? Is there anything else that you do, or is it kind of like
I do whatever. Like, I don't like. I spend most of my free time. Like, I used to like watch a bunch of like when I had free time, I would watch Netflix or play video games or something.
Yeah.
And I pretty much stopped doing that I just like read books now. Like I just read a shit ton. And I also just spend a lot of time outside. Like I'll just go outside, they have like these binaural beats you can listen to, that's a whole nother thing, which puts you in like a delta or a theta, I forget which, puts your mind in like a meditative state. It just makes it easier for you to meditate, because you can meditate. You don't have to be sitting here like this to meditate. Like you can be walking around. It's not necessarily just sitting there. So like I'll go on walks and shit like that. And I do a lot of just fucking hanging out outside, just like being in nature, and it's very refreshing. And reading and shit. I did get back into art a little bit, so I'm gonna start making t-shirts. I think I have some designs that I already did, but I haven't started that yet. But yeah, so I'm getting more, because I've been spending most of this time taking in information, like trying to figure out what's what. So like I got like the Quran, I got the Bible, of course, I got the Tao Te Ching, Buddhist texts and this and that. So I've been trying to read all like the ancient religions and try to figure out like what resonates and what doesn't, and kind of figure out what's real and what's not. And a lot of it is all saying the same shit basically.
Yeah,
at the end of the day.
Way of saying it.
Yeah, and then like that Dolores Cannon, oh my God, her shit is amazing, because she didn't expect any of that stuff. She was doing therapy just to get people to like heal people, because this is another book too. What's her name? Cynthia Sue Larson, Quantum Jumps, about parallel dimensions and quantum physics, how it has to do with the placebo effect.
Yeah.
And how your mind literally controls everything. They did this where they had like two groups of athletes who had like knee problems. They did fake surgeries on half of them, and they all recovered the same.
Wow.
I'm talking surgery. So they cut them open, didn't do anything, sewed them back, and they were like, it's fixed because of the mind. So, I've been, but that girl, what's her name? Dolores Cannon, she was just doing hypnosis type things to get people to do that through hypnosis. And then all of a sudden they're like higher selves or whatever would start saying like you were saying, all this, they'd all say the same shit about like what it's like when you're dead and what this is all about. And they were all saying the same things. This is over 40 years. None of these people knew each other. None of these people knew. And like, so I got really into that. So I've been taking a lot of information in, and then recently I've just decided to I'm finally getting ready to start putting it out there, because I don't know anything really. The only thing I know is that the law of one is the thing. We're all one. It's all love. The only time is now. The future is in our heads. The past is in our heads. That's another hack. That's such a hack from Eckhart Tolle. And it's
just being present to the moment.
Yeah, because there is only the moment. Anytime that you're worrying about the future, he talks about it as being insane, and in a way it is. It's like you're not conscious at that moment. You're unconscious. He doesn't say insane, he says unconscious, because the only time you're really conscious is when you're locked in. And like video games too, you get in the flow state, or when you're playing sports, or when you're dancing or playing an instrument or doing art or something, like you're in that moment. It's very rare. And that's what we were talking about earlier. Like, how do you find what you want to do? Find the thing that, like, when you lose track of time, that's the thing you should be doing, because that's the thing that locks you in, that brings you joy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
being able to manipulate the flow state is huge. I mean, I've watched countless videos preaching the flow state and being present to the moment. And that's honestly, like, when you do, I mean, on a regular person, like just a normal person, you're present to the moment rarely. Like, I feel like just living your day-to-day life before knowing all of that shit, even while knowing it, like,
and there's so many distractions. We're meant to, they're trying to keep us out of that,
Exactly.
So,
whether it's you waking, like, if you go to work, you got to worry, think about what's going to happen at work, what's going to happen after work, right? Like, you're always thinking ahead, and then you'll drift to thinking about the past, about someone or something. It's like you're never fully present. In meditation, I know, because I do meditate, not as much as I should, for sure, but when I meditate, it's like after meditation, you feel different as a person.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you only have what's right now after just doing nothing.
Well, because you kind of forget about the person if you do it long enough, and like, you stop being Mike. You realize that you're just being. You're just the guy playing the video game. You're just
Exactly.
the observer. You become the observer, and the more you can become the observer and stop thinking that I'm this person and I have to identify as white and American and blah, all these different labels and boxes. The whole thinking outside the box thing is actually such a hack, which it means something. It's like boxes just get in the way of experiencing things for what they are. Oh, that's a tree. It's like, well, look at it. Like, are you really experiencing looking at the tree, or do you just say in your mind tree and move on?
Yeah, exactly. And that's a thing that I've come to realize too, like in regards to people in general being in public. Like there's a lot of people that think that like when you're out there, people are looking at you, observing you, judging you, and in reality, everyone is so stuck in that box that nobody actually is. Nobody
Right.
cares about you because they're so focused on themselves and like
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
they need to do in a couple hours, what they've done, what they have to do tomorrow. So it's like there's a group on YouTube that I watch pretty frequently who cite Eckhart Tolle all the time, and they're like,
Oh yeah.
if you were to go into a busy street and just drop on the sidewalk and do 5 push-ups, people will walk by, that's weird, and continue on with their life. Like nothing is as big of a deal as everyone thinks it is.
Because
Yeah.
everyone thinks everyone's looking at them. So they
Yeah.
can't be looking at you because they think you're looking at them.
Exactly. And once you break that
Exactly.
mold, it is so freeing. I mean, I'm still learning to do it now, but like when you realize that like nothing matters, like you said, nothing matters. Like everything is just it just is. And
Yeah.
it's just so freeing to be able to do that. And the fact that you've come as far as you've come, because I've known you for a while. Like you've come so far. And it's
Thank
just
you.
such a freeing thing to see it, to do it, to live it. Like it's crazy.
And
Yeah.
everyone can do it. And that's the way that we fix the whole world, is everyone needs to fix themselves, basically. And that's all it is. That's how we do it. It's by going within. That's how we're gonna do this.
100%. Now,
Yeah.
before we end the episode, do you have anything you'd like to say to the viewers, Pat? Anything at all?
I don't know. Trust yourself. Just trust yourself. You got to just love yourself and trust yourself. And you got to be grateful of every opportunity. Everything that happens to you, bad or good, is for your benefit. You have to know that. Bad shit that happens is a learning experience. And if you don't learn from it, it's going to keep happening until you do. And you have to be happy for that because it's teaching you something. There's no such thing as problems. There's no such thing as bad. Everything is good. Everything is for your benefit. And you just need to live in that grateful gratitude mindset, and you will get everything that you want because you already have it. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's dope. All right, guys. We just want to say thank you again for continuing to be checked in. Pat, Mike, and Zach. Also, I want you guys to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, or sorry, we have Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Spotify, all that stuff. Like, comment, subscribe. You can find our Instagram at Checked In Podcast. You can find our TikTok at Checked In Podcast. We always have great content on that stuff. We have great content across the board on our YouTube. Turn the notification bells on, please. We want you guys to do that as well. Subscribe. Put us in your favorites, whatever you got to do. Look us up every day. We've always got good stuff to talk about and listen to. Join the conversation in our comment section. Let us know what you feel, what you've noticed, in your walk through life. Pretty much anything that we talked about. Just always chime in the comments. Let us know. We'll talk back. Thank you once again for being checked in, and that's